now that we have watched both videos about adverbs and adjectives, I hope you got a little refresher on both of those because you should be familiar with these terms. We've gone over them as they are the parts of speech. So I just want to go over what exactly we're going to be doing the rest of the time period. Also, I think it's good that you guys are familiar with the standards that we are working towards. So by the end of this class, there's going to be a few objectives that you should be able to accomplish. The standard that we're going with is being able to use adjectives and adverbs and choose between them depending on what is to be modified. So your language objectives, they are going to be the following. So by the end of the lesson, you should be able to differentiate between both adjectives and adverbs, use descriptive language in a sentence, and also recognize what certain questions are asking. So for your communicative objectives, you should be able to ask clarifying questions, describe people, places, and things, and describe spatial and temporal relationships. Or relations, sorry. And those are in reference to time. So we're going to go ahead and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to review our adjectives and adverbs notes. We're going to do that together as a class. And then also we're going to complete an adverbs and adjective worksheet, prepare for a quiz, and then if you have any last minute questions, we're going to go ahead and do that as well. So let's go ahead and move on to our notes. So these are our notes. You guys should all have a copy of them. So actually, there we go. So adjectives and adverbs. So a few things to remember. An adjective is a word that describes a noun, and a noun can be anything like an animal, a person, a thing, or a thought. Those are nouns. You should be familiar with them. We use them in every sentence. We use them to communicate with each other. And it's important to remember the answer to the question. They answer the questions, which are what kind, how many, and which one. So those are questions that you should be familiar with, and you're going to know that now that adjectives help with answering those questions. For adverbs, we have to remember that an adverb is a word that is used to tell us more about a verb, which is an action. So an action, running, talking, smiling, and it's important to know that they mainly end in the letters ly. Not always, but in most cases they do. And they answer the questions how, where, and when. So I think it's really important that you guys take into consideration these questions because you will be using them in everyday communication. So what kind, how many, which one for adjectives, how, where, and when for adverbs. So I do have, these are your notes, and I do have some examples for you. The adjectives, we have clean, short, charming, silly, nice, big, sweet, wild, cold, juicy, brave. And then on the other side, we have wonderful, old, disgusting, young, crazy, shiny, smart, pretty, tall, loud, and spooky. So if we apply it to the questions, we can say, what kind of berries are they? You can say sweet. You can say juicy. If we say how many, you can say, I'm not too sure actually if I have it on this list, but if you say which one, you can say the charming person, or you can say the clean dog. So those are adjectives that are gonna describe the nouns that we're talking about. And on this side, we have the adverbs. So the adverbs that I have for you guys are happily, sadly, politely, anywhere, always, excitedly, playfully, earlier, somewhat, gently, well. And then the second column, often, quietly, fairly, loudly, now, many, usually, a few, accidentally, quite, and harshly. So some of you may be using these words, some of you may not, but it's okay because you guys are still learning and you can expand your vocabulary since you are being exposed to these words already. So these are adverbs and they're going to answer the questions how, where, and when. So if you say that somebody did something how, they did it happily, they did it sadly, they did it politely. If you say where, you can say, even though it's not on the list, you can say here, there, you can say different types of adverbs. When it says when, you can put frequently, often, somewhat. So those answer those types of questions. Okay, so before we move on, just remember an adjective describes nouns and adverbs describe actions. Oh, sorry, well, verbs, which are actions, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and move on to our worksheet, and you should all have this as well. We're going to go ahead and do this together, but we're also going to be using our notes. So make sure you have those side by side. For the first one, it says fill in the blank with the correct word. So using our notes, it says an adjective is a word that describes a what? A blank. So if you go over to this side, this worksheet, it says an adjective is a word that describes a noun. So go ahead and fill in your blank with the word noun. So using our notes, it says a noun. Moving on to number 2, an adverb is a word that describes a what? An adverb. So an adverb goes with the verb. So we're going to go ahead and put a verb right here. Sorry, a verb. So an adverb is a word that describes a verb. And question number 3, many adverbs end with the letters what? With the letters ly. As you can see right here in our notes, that's what they usually end in. However, it's not the case for every single adverb. Okay, so we're just gonna put an ly right there. So these are the answers for this one. An adjective describes a noun. An adverb is a word that describes a verb, and many adverbs end in the letters ly. So let's move on. So I know it's a little cut off right here, but you should have the full access to the entire worksheet. So adverbs answer 3 questions. Those questions are what? So if we look, it's going to be on this, not on this side. This is adjectives. It's going to be on this side of the adverbs. So they answer these 3 questions. So the first one, we're going to go ahead and put how. So right here, just go ahead and fill in your worksheets with the word how. Question mark. It's important that you put the question mark. For the second one, it says right here that they also answer where questions. So questions relating to a location. So where. And lastly, the question is when. So an adverb answers the question of when something occurred. So we'll go ahead and fill that. When. And then for number 7 through 9, we're going to fill in the blanks with an appropriate adjective. So it says the blank cake was served. You can use the adjectives provided here on the side for you, or you can use your own. So we're going to go ahead and use the ones that are in this column. So the blank cake was served. If we're describing a noun, which in this case is a cake, we can say that the pretty cake was served, because people that decorate cakes can really put so much effort, and there are some beautiful wedding cakes or birthday cakes. And for number 8, my blank aunt is visiting from Iowa. So if we are using an adjective to describe an aunt, we can put our pretty as we use for the cake, or we can put our wonderful aunt. So if you want to describe your aunt in a positive way, we're gonna put wonderful. So this, just give me a second. Wonderful. So it should be wonderful right here. Wonderful aunt. Or let me see. Wonderful aunt. Okay, and number 9, my dog is blank. We can put my dog is sweet, my dog is loud, because dogs bark. But in this case, we'll put my dog is sweet, because usually dogs are friendly, dogs are nice, so we can go ahead and describe them as sweet. And then for the last three, 10 through 12, we're going to fill in the blanks with appropriate adverbs. So again, adverbs are describing a verb, which is an action. So it says he ran to the store blank. So we're going to go ahead and put it with one of our adverbs from this column. It says, we can say he ran to the store I don't think it's on here, but we can go ahead and put quickly. Even though it's not on our list, it is a adverb that ends in ly, so we'll go ahead and put quickly. For number 11, it says the waitress carried the tray. We can put gently, because usually waitresses carry large amounts of food on their trays, so they need to be careful, so gently would fit perfectly. And our last one, it says we blank see them on Saturdays. So if we're talking about friends, if we're talking about family members, we can go ahead and put we often see them on Saturdays. So that's one way. Another word that you can put is we always or sometimes see them on Saturdays. We often, often. Okay, so that is going to do it for our review. If you have any questions, be sure to raise your hand and ask me, or you can ask your partners. This should be able to help you with the quiz that we're gonna have. And also the quiz, it's more of just to check that you're understanding everything. We're gonna go ahead and do the quiz in a few minutes, and then you're gonna switch with the partner when we're all done, and then we're going to grade it as a class. Okay, so before we go ahead and do that, just remember that adjectives are words that describe a noun, and a noun can be an animal, a person, a thing, a thought, an idea. And then an adverb is a word that tells us about a verb, which is an action, and they mainly end in ly, but that's not always the case. So you already know that they answer the questions what kind, how many, and which one for adjectives, and how, where, and when for adverbs. So you are going to be able to use your notes during the test. Like I said, this is more for understanding, to make sure that you guys are being able to differentiate between both of the adjectives and the adverbs. And then once we're done with the quiz, we're going to be able to have an exercise where you write sentences of your own using both adverbs and adjectives. Okay, so just go ahead and study that for a few more minutes while we get ready for the test. I know it's not going to be too hard. You should all be able to do really well. Okay, so like I said, go ahead and review that for a few minutes.